So by the time that Protestant missionaries get to China in the early 19th century, we have to account for the fact that there are already some Chinese Catholic Christians in the country. The estimate is around 1800 or so. There's about 170,000 Chinese Christians from these prior Catholic missions. Since the middle of the 18th century, new missionary activity has been banned because of all the controversy around Chinese rights that occurred previously. What changes that is the Opium War, so called, between 1839 and 1842. This is a war that the British fight to have the right to import opium into China, despite the fact that the Chinese Empire said, no, this is not permitted. So the British engage in a war to force the importation of opium to create addiction and thus profit. The Treaty of Nanking in 1842 ends this war. This gives the British the right to possess Hong Kong and open various ports throughout China to British trade. As well, the Treaty of Nanking permits European missionaries to work freely throughout China, and this results in widespread conversion. So this is a moment in which imperial activity and missionary activity are again intensely paired, even though the Christian missionaries do not approve of the opium trade at all, and in some ways really don't want to be part of the imperial mission that Britain is up to. So an example of that tension is the China Inland Mission, the CIM, that's established in 1865. This is established by Hudson Taylor as an ecumenical Protestant missionary mission to the interior of China. That means outside of British zones. As in India, the China Inland Mission promotes female Western missionaries from being active. There are also significant gender divisions in Chinese society. And also the encouragement of native Chinese missionaries. So the China Inland Mission is very much part of this evangelical movement that envisions a rapid deployment of local populations for missionary activities. So the China Inland Missions established in 1865. By 1880, that is 15 years later, there are more Chinese than Western missionaries active, 100 to 96. The China Inland Mission is strongly opposed to the opium trade, and indeed establishes rehabilitation centers for addicts. So again, this marrying of a concern for the conversion of souls and the repair of the well-being of people, that's really counter to whatever the British officially are up to. The China Inland Mission is massively successful, so that by the year 1914, there was over 1,000 missionaries associated with this. It's ecumenical in scope, as I mentioned. British people are involved, German people, Canadian, American, and many, many Chinese people as well. So you've had these various images to look at here that show kind of this breadth of the China Inland Mission and kind of the ecumenical turn that missionary activity is taking on. This missionary activity is disrupted by an event known as the Boxer Rebellion. This is an uprising by a group known as the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists. That's where the word boxer comes from, this term. That's really a millennialist uprising. That is an apocalyptic event trying to establish a new utopian reality. It is an anti-Western movement that is Chinese nationalist in its orientation, emphasizes traditional religious practices in contrast to the outside forms of Christianity being brought in. One of the things it emphasizes is a spirit possession that gets its members into a sort of frenzy, and then they go and attack representatives of colonialism. It's fueled by a real anger at the opium trade and the way in which the opium trade has really created a society of addicts. The ways in which British, United States, and other European colonial entities are manipulating the economy for their own benefit and impoverishing many Chinese people. And so a real anger at this foreign interference in China, and an anger at missionaries who are seen as moving people away from their traditions and their cultures to something that's foreign, different, and disruptive. And so this leads to violence directed at churches, along with all these other targets. And missionary centers are attacked. So many Christians suffer during this rebellion. About 30,000 Chinese Catholics are killed, 2,000 Chinese Protestants, about 400 Chinese Orthodox Christians, about 135 Protestant missionaries, from their families, 53 children, and 47 Catholic priests and nuns. So this just gives you a sense in the way in which the Boxer Rebellion is a response to very widespread, successful missionary activity, and the cost it leads for missionaries and Christians in China. Nonetheless, the Christian population in China simply continues to grow. So that by 1900, there are about 1.6 million Chinese Christians. Unless you think that's a really big number, keep in mind that there's 472 million people in China. So there's a lot of Chinese Christians, but there's still a vast minority. What are some numbers we could put this in contrast with? There are about 376 million practitioners of folk religion in China, 60 million Buddhists, 24 million Muslims. So while Christianity is growing, it is by no means a dominant form of religion either. Yet it's an outlier in being representative of the colonialism that is really wreaking havoc in Christians and Chinese society. To pull our reflections together a bit, and as I gestured towards with the China Inland Mission, there's a whole trajectory here for Anglicanism and really the ecumenical movement more broadly. Missionary activity really pushes Protestantism towards conversations about ecumenism, that is about breaking down the divisions among Christians and moving towards Christian unity. In 1910, there was an event held in Edinburgh, Scotland, the Edinburgh Missionary Conference, where representatives of all the various Protestant missionary agencies come together. And a real push is made there towards figuring out how people can cooperate across confessional lines. So remember we talked about confessionalization in the context of the 17th century and how that reinforced division between Protestants. Now, in the context of modernity, there's an attempt to eliminate some of those divisions for the sake of unity and cooperation. There are many different ways this trajectory goes. Anglicans are very much at the forefront of this ecumenical movement, though, and in 1920, at the meeting of the Lambeth Conference, and the Lambeth Conference was established in the 1860s as a meeting every 10 years or so of all the bishops in the Anglican Communion. These bishops compose an appeal to all Christian people at the 1920 Lambeth Conference, where they say one of the goals that we have is full, visible church reunion. That is a clear coming together of Protestants with Anglicanism itself. And that is a reunion of Christianity under a Catholic Episcopal structure. What I mean by that, and what the document means, is a form of the episcopacy, or having bishops, that can trace itself back to the early church, but is also part of Protestantism as well. So missionary movement pushes towards ecumenism and towards the attempt to break down division. Some of the other things that are compelling this is World War I and the great slaughter that happens amongst the various Christian nations of Europe. And so a desire to reduce these divisions both in Europe and globally, both on the competition among nations and in the missionary zones. So this is a part of the story of where missionary activity takes things and how Anglicanism itself is shaped to become increasingly ecumenical in its outlook as it moves into 20th century and as it conceptualizes itself as a new kind of global communion. So that's all that we have for this session. Look forward to our conversations.